Hi, in this video I want to show you how to do prompt engineering for software development. Specifically, how to test a wide variety of different responses and the same response repeatedly to see what kind of results you get and which ones are the best for your software. When using prompts within software, I've found that the prompts are actually much longer and more complex. So you can see a sample one that I've pulled into here. And so, therefore, there's a lot more variety in terms of what you can put into it, and also at the same time, it's even more important within software that it get it right. It get it actually very, very right. So you have kind of two factors here that are making this much more complicated and much harder to get to the final answer. And a lot of what I see people out there doing is just using words in English and to try to come to a good prompt, which helps up to a point. But I would like to use data and actually prove it with data and demonstrate it with data, and not just now, but be able to do it continually over time, because we know that the models are regularly changing. So previously we were building a customer service software that had a lot of OpenAI, or a lot of AI calls that it had within it. It was about 5 to 7 typically. And here is one of the first ones, which is when a user query first comes in, it uses a vector database to put in some relevant conversations. I just put this in manually just to see if I could lead the answer, and then I gave it some context. So it was with it was Shopify that we were targeting, and so we wanted the software to be able to choose, not just identify what actions to take, but also where to take the conversation, and then some additional notes about how the conversations will work. And then down here are the factors that I'm actually looking to test. You can see them in the brackets that I've got variations. I've got objective in all caps, objective in no caps. I'm testing kind of all caps versus not all caps. I'm testing goal versus objective versus your task. And I'm also testing solutions and answers versus solutions and or responses. And then here you can see there's kind of an empty thing. I'm giving it some additional detail and wondering if that makes a difference. So I've enabled variations, and it's going to give me 3 of each of these. So there's quite a few of different responses. Let's click Feed Robot. And you can see it started the job. This is quite a big job, 72 total GPT-4 calls. So we'll come back in a second when it's done. Okay, it's done. So you can see in the first iteration, it will take the first one of each one of these brackets, and there's an empty one here to test some of the variations. So you can see the first input it gives is right here. It doesn't have the clarification statement. I wanted to test to see if that was really helpful, or maybe actually even it could have had a negative effect. Could confuse the model. Sometimes if you give too many variety of different numbers, it doesn't really know which ones are which. And then, we're testing the different ways to ask for the task. So I went and I scrolled through. You can see over here to the right, there's quite a few responses here that I scanned through really quickly to see what differences were made. So let's go back up to the top, and I'll kind of summarize what I noticed as I went through there. I didn't notice any difference really between objective, goal, or your task. And I didn't notice any difference when you capitalize versus not capitalize. I think the fact that we have like these lines with the colon already kind of delineates it enough. So I don't think that you would need to, my conclusion is I can use kind of any one of these and it would work fine. So I would probably use the one that uses the least amount of tokens, the shortest one. I also didn't notice a big difference between basically the answers and responses. I guess I could have made this a little bit more tight notation here. And part of this also has to do with the nature of what I'm asking for. So it's possible that this was not really a great test. So I think it doesn't really matter which one I use. And now for this one, where I had half of them had that means 6 solutions, blah, 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 and half of them just had nothing. and I did not notice a difference in quality between those either. So I'm actually, that means that I should probably take it off of here. Now, there's quite a few more tests that I think we could do here. Number one, I'd like to compress the prompt, and I think the most cost-effective way to do that is actually to compress it into emojis, using GPT-4 to take the text that is pretty standard and compress it into emojis so that it's much shorter, much less tokens, so it saves money. And there's a way to do that with supposedly with lossless information, or no lost information. And so converting this into emojis and then comparing the two different outputs, I think that would be pretty useful. Additionally, what you can do before you do that is you can take a piece and you can cut it off to see, does this notes on the context. I can do kind of what I did with this and see if it makes a better or worse response by removing this. We could also mess with the order of things. I think this is probably a good order, but maybe it's better if the query is above here and then we just have this context here, or maybe it's better. I tend to like to put the task at the bottom because it can get confused in a long prompt if you put the task at the top, but I think that would be potentially worth a test depending on your specific prompt. There's another interesting thing that happened, which was I think this section could be done better. Maybe I need more sample conversations, maybe instead of 2, if I had 5. But it seemed to mostly ignore this. So I was trying to give it, instead of a single shot response, a multi-shot prompt. It kind of seemed to, reading the responses, it didn't seem to take this into consideration that, hey, it seems like this company, they just don't give refunds. That's kind of the answer I wanted to lead it towards, but it didn't seem to do that. Now, maybe placing this in a different place, maybe placing it closer to the objective might have made it stronger. Maybe adding more text here, making it a bigger piece of that. So there's a lot of different ways that I think need to test injecting the relevant information into the prompt. This was probably the weakest part of the prompt, but it's unclear if this is just a little bit of a silly response, or because who just flatly refuses refunds. Actually, there are companies that it's just no refunds, and so it's not completely unreasonable. Maybe we just need more information on no refunds. So what I've also done here is I've saved this in the notes section, some conclusions and further tests for reference. So this is a note that's specific to this. So if we go just to this other conversation I was having, you can see that there is no notes there. And if I go back to the one we were at, you can see that the notes stuck. So you can actually reach the conclusion and reference this later. I do think it's going to be more and more important over time to run these kinds of things regularly as the models change. What the kind of response we get from GPT-4 today in August 2023 is different than what we would have gotten, I guess in April of 2023 and let's say January of 2024. These responses could be very different. And so I think having this in the documentation, in your documentation for prompt engineering, is going to be very useful for your software. So hopefully this was helpful for you. Let me know if you have any thoughts or questions. If you're building software that's AI powered, I definitely want to talk to you and hear the challenges that you're having. And if your AI responses are not consistent enough, reach out to me and let's talk about how we can make them more consistent using hyperprompts. So I'll put a link to hyperprompts below so you can check it out. Thank you very much and have a great day. Bye.